I always thought marriage was supposed to be about trust, love, and partnership. My wife Jessica and I had built a life together that I genuinely believed was solid. We had been married for 5 years, and while no relationship is perfect, I was convinced we were happy. Sure, we had our arguments, who does? But those were just bumps in the road. I thought we were navigating them together, hand in hand. It started with small changes. Jessica, who always had a knack for being home by dinner time, began working late more often. At first, I was supportive. Her career as a marketing manager at a local firm was blossoming, and I wanted her to succeed. But there was something off about her late nights. She'd come home with that same practiced smile, but her eyes seemed distant, like she was miles away from me. Then there was her phone. Jessica used to leave it around casually, but suddenly she was protective of it, always taking it with her to the bathroom or keeping it face down on the table. I shrugged it off at first, thinking it was the latest trend in privacy. But then I started noticing other things. She was wearing different clothes when she came home, clothes I had never seen before. A new perfume lingered in the air, something floral and sweet, and it wasn't one I recognized from her usual collection. The worst part was the little lies. Casual comments about who she was with or what she was doing didn't add up. She claimed she had dinner with coworkers, but I recognized the name of one of her friends, Taylor, who was rumored to be a notorious flirt. The more I thought about it, the more my gut twisted. Something was definitely wrong. Then came the day of discovery. I was cleaning out the garage one Sunday afternoon when I stumbled upon an old box filled with documents, receipts, and various knickknacks from our early days. Among them, I found a receipt from a hotel, stay for two, signed by Jessica and a name I didn't recognize, Ethan. My heart dropped. I felt sick. The date on that receipt matched a weekend when she claimed she was going on a girls' trip. I knew I had to confront her, but part of me wanted to gather more evidence before making a scene. That evening, I waited for her to come home, my heart thumping in my chest. When she walked in, glowing as if she hadn't a care in the world, the sight of her made my blood boil. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but I wanted to keep my cool. I approached her casually, trying to mask the storm brewing within. "Hey Jess, how was your day?" I asked, but my voice trembled slightly. "It was good, busy as always," she replied, tossing her bag onto the couch. The smile was too wide, too forced. "Did you go to that new restaurant with Taylor?" I inquired, trying to sound nonchalant. Her eyes flickered just for a moment, but it was enough. "Oh, that? No, I ended up having to meet someone for work." "Really? Because I found something interesting today," I said, my heart racing. Her expression shifted, the smile fading as I pulled out the receipt from my pocket. "What's this, Jess?" Her face paled as she stared at the paper in disbelief. "That's not what it looks like," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "Then explain it to me," I urged, trying to keep my voice steady. She stammered and began to weave a story about a work conference that turned into a business meeting with Ethan. I could feel rage boiling over as her excuses spilled out. It was clear she thought I would break down and confront her directly, but I had decided to let guilt do the talking instead. I wanted her to squirm, to feel the weight of what she had done. The emotional impact hit me like a freight train. I was devastated. I had trusted this woman with my life, and here she was lying to my face. It felt like my world was crumbling. I had always imagined that we would be together forever, but now that seemed like a cruel joke. I needed to think and process what had just happened. I was angry, hurt, and confused. How could I move forward from this? I decided I needed a plan that would allow me to take control of a situation that had spun wildly out of my grasp. I didn't want to approach this confrontation recklessly. I wanted to ensure I had the upper hand. Little did Jessica know I was about to turn the tables. The next few days were excruciating. I went through a whirlwind of emotions, teetering between anger and heartbreak. I hardly slept, replaying every interaction Jessica and I had over the last few months in my mind. Each memory felt like a dagger, twisting deeper as I recalled her lies. Every time she laughed too hard at a joke or hugged me too tightly, I felt sick. How could I have been so blind? I knew I had to gather more evidence, not just for my peace of mind, but to ensure that when I confronted her again, I had facts that would leave no room for her excuses. I started tracking her movements, which felt invasive but was necessary given the circumstances. I marked the days she claimed to be working late or hanging out with friends and noted their inconsistencies. One evening, I decided to dive into her social media accounts. We had shared passwords for years, and trust was the foundation of our relationship. But now, that trust felt like a flimsy facade ready to crumble. I logged in and scrolled through her messages. I focused on her interactions with Taylor and Ethan, hoping for some smoking gun that would confirm my worst fears. What I found was alarming. There were flirty exchanges, code words, and emojis that screamed intimacy. They made plans to meet up, and one message stood out. "Can't wait to have you all to myself this weekend." My heart raced as I read it over and over again. This confirmed everything I suspected. This wasn't just a one-time fling. It was an affair with emotional depth, hidden behind layers of deceit. With each new piece of evidence I uncovered, my resolve hardened. I was building my case against her, not just for the sake of revenge but to find closure and clarity. I even contacted a private investigator, someone who specialized in infidelity cases. I wanted to know the full extent of her betrayal. I needed proof that I could present when the time came to confront her properly. The investigator followed Jessica around for a few days, gathering details that made my stomach churn. They captured photos of her meeting up with Ethan at cafes, buying coffee together, and even leaving his apartment. I felt a mixture of fury and sadness as I looked at the photos. I thought I was the one she wanted to be with, yet here she was, building a new life with someone else right under my nose. Finally, the weekend arrived, the same one she had planned to spend with her supposed girlfriends. I had already arranged for the investigator to follow up on her activities, and my anxiety seemed to reach a fever pitch as I waited for confirmation on what I knew would be a gut-wrenching reveal. When the investigator called me later that evening, I was ready to hear it all. "She's at the hotel with him," he said. "I have the photos, they checked in together." My heart sank as I felt the weight of the truth crashing down on me. I thanked him, and as I hung up, tears streamed down my face. I had never felt so betrayed, so utterly alone. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was with another man, sharing moments that should have belonged to us. That night I made a decision. I would confront Jessica, but not in an ordinary way. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done. I wanted her to see the full picture, and I wanted her to know that I was aware of everything. I planned an elaborate setup for when she returned home. I gathered all the evidence, the photos, the messages, and the receipts, and laid them out on the dining table, a tableau of betrayal. I wanted her to walk into that room and be confronted with the reality of what she had done. As I waited, the clock ticking down the minutes until she would come home, I felt a strange calm wash over me. I was no longer the victim, I was the one in control. I would not allow her to manipulate the narrative any longer. When she walked through that door, I would be ready. I knew this would be hard. I knew the confrontation would be explosive. But I also knew that I needed to reclaim my life, my dignity, and my peace of mind. Jessica would have to face the consequences of her actions. No more lies, no more hiding. It was time for the truth to come out. The door creaked open, and Jessica stepped inside, her usual radiant smile quickly fading as she took in the scene before her. I could see confusion washing over her face, and for a brief moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But that quickly vanished as I prepared to confront the woman who had shattered my trust. "Hey, babe," she said tentatively, glancing around the room. "What's all this?" "Sit down, Jessica," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady. I gestured to the chair at the table where all the evidence lay neatly arranged, like pieces of a painful puzzle. "What is this?" she asked again, her gaze darting from the receipts to the photos and back to me. I could see her heart racing, and I felt a surge of satisfaction knowing she was finally caught. "Let's not play games," I replied, keeping my tone measured. "You know exactly what this is about. It's about you and Ethan." Her eyes widened and she stammered, What do you mean? This is insane." I leaned forward, locking my gaze onto hers. "You don't get to lie to me anymore, Jess. I've seen the texts. I know about the hotel. I know everything." The color drained from her face and she sank into the chair, her bravado crumbling. Okay, okay, let me explain. I interrupted, my anger bubbling beneath the surface. What can you possibly say that will make this okay? You've been cheating on me, lying to my face. You think an explanation can fix this? I was lonely, she said, her voice small. Things changed between us. I thought you weren't interested anymore. I just needed someone. Someone else. I snapped, incredulous at her reasoning. You thought it was okay to betray me, to seek comfort in another man. I worked, I supported you, I trusted you, and this is how you repay me. Her gaze fell to the table, and I could see the guilt creeping onto her features. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered, as if that would absolve her. Didn't mean for it to happen, that's your excuse. I shot back. You made choices, Jess. Every time you answered a text, every time you went out with him, you chose to betray me. She started to cry, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought we were drifting apart. Drifting apart, I scoffed. You could have talked to me, you could have communicated. Instead, you chose to sleep with someone else. That tells me everything I need to know about how you value our marriage. She looked up, her expression shifting from sorrow to defensiveness. You don't understand. I felt abandoned. You were always working late and I was stuck at home alone. It wasn't just about sex, it was about connection. Connection. I echoed, incredulity pouring from my voice. You think cheating is a way to build a connection with a man who doesn't know the first thing about you? I was confused. She cried, desperation creeping into her voice. I thought I could fix things by having an affair. I interrupted, my voice rising. That's your version of fixing things. This isn't just a mistake, Jessica. This is a choice you made repeatedly over time. I stood up, pacing the room as I tried to gather my thoughts. How could she be so selfish, so reckless? What had I done to deserve this? I felt my heart breaking all over. Again, but I couldn't let her see my vulnerability. Do you even have any idea what you've done to me? I asked, taking a deep breath to steady myself. Do you understand how this feels? The betrayal, the anger, the sheer disbelief that the person I loved could do something so cruel. She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was scared. You were busy all the time and I just scared. I interrupted again, exasperated. That's not an excuse for cheating. You could have come to me. You could have just talked it out. Instead, you chose to sneak around, lying and hiding things from me. You made your bed and now you have to lie in it. Her sobs filled the room, and for a moment I felt a flicker of compassion. But then I remembered the photographs, the lies. I couldn't let her manipulate me with tears. I needed to stay resolute. I need to know what you want from me now, I said, grounding my voice. Do you think we can just forget this? Do you think I can trust you again? She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. I want to fix this. I love you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Love, I scoffed. How can you call that love when you've betrayed me so deeply? You've destroyed everything we built together, Jessica. I can't just sweep this under the rug. It doesn't work that way. I paused, taking a deep breath as I realized how much this moment meant. I had to decide how to move forward. Did I believe her? Could I ever trust her again? Or was it time to consider ending this chapter of my life? I need time to think, I finally said, my voice calm but firm. You've shattered my trust, and that's not something that can be repaired easily. You need to understand the weight of this. I watched her cry as I walked away, knowing the road ahead would be painful. But I also felt a sense of clarity. I was done being a victim. I would take control from here on out. It was time to decide what I truly wanted for my future, with or without her. The following days felt like a blur. I moved through life like a ghost, going through the motions but feeling utterly disconnected from reality. I went to work but I couldn't concentrate. I had never been one to wallow, but suddenly everything felt heavy. The betrayal weighed on my shoulders like a millstone, and I was drowning in thoughts of Jessica's infidelity. I didn't reach out to her after our confrontation. I needed space, time to process everything without her hovering around, begging for forgiveness. Meanwhile, I found solace in my friends. I didn't tell them the full story, of course, just that Jessica and I were having a rough patch, but even that felt like a lie. How could I explain the betrayal? It was too complex, too painful. I didn't want to be the man whose wife cheated on him. I stayed busy, distracting myself from the emotional fallout. I went to the gym more often, pushing my body to its limits, hoping to work out the anger and sadness. It helped to an extent, but every time my mind wandered, it returned to her. Her laughter, her smiles, the way we used to be together. I missed the intimacy we once shared, and that ache made me feel even more lost. Jessica reached out a few times, sending me texts filled with apologies, begging me to talk. "I can't lose you," she would write, or "please, let's fix this." Each message felt like a reminder of how naive I had been to trust her, to believe in her love. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to communicate with her yet. I needed to understand my feelings before I could deal with hers. One evening, as I sat in my living room, staring blankly at the wall, I received a call from the private investigator. I hesitated before picking up. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear more about Jessica's activities, but I knew I had to face the truth, however painful it might be. "Hey, I have some updates for you," he said, his voice steady. "I followed Jessica and Ethan again this week. They've been meeting consistently, and I have photos from their latest rendezvous." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, but I forced myself to respond. "What did you find?" "They went to dinner, then headed back to his apartment late at night. I can send you the photos if you want." "Keep them. I don't need to see more," I replied, my voice heavy with resignation. I could already picture the images, the two of them together, laughing and living a life I thought we had. "I just need to know if they're still together." "They are," he confirmed. "I've followed them for the past 2 weeks and they've been meeting almost every day." A wave of nausea washed over me. The reality of her affair felt more tangible now, like a knife twisting deeper into my gut. It wasn't a random fling. It was a relationship. She had made a choice to invest in someone else while I was at home, planning a future we would never have. I thanked the investigator and hung up, feeling hollow. I spent the remainder of the night pacing my apartment, wondering what I would say to Jessica when we finally talked. I had to make a decision about my future, but it felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, paralyzed by fear. The next day, I decided to meet with Jessica. I called her and asked her to come over. After a long silence, she agreed, and I felt a mix of anxiety and dread. This would be our chance to face the truth, and I hoped I could find the words to express everything I had been holding inside. When she arrived, the tension was palpable. Jessica walked in, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. She looked the same as always, but I felt the weight of our conversation looming between us. "Thanks for coming," I said, motioning for her to sit down. "I'm glad you called," she replied, her voice shaky. "I've missed you." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the talk ahead. "I've missed you too, but it's hard to think about what we've lost. I've been processing everything, and I need you to understand how serious this is." "I know I messed up," she said, her eyes pleading, "but I want to work through this. I'll do anything you want." "Anything?" I asked incredulously. "What does that even mean? You've betrayed my trust in the worst way possible, and now you're asking me to just forgive and forget." "I'm not asking you to forget. I just want a chance." "To make it right," she insisted. "Make it right," I echoed, incredulity creeping into my tone. "You've already made your choices, Jess. I need to know if you really mean that or if you just don't want to be alone." She hesitated, struggling to find her words. "I wasn't thinking when I cheated. I was confused and scared, but I still love you. I want to come home." "Love doesn't excuse infidelity," I replied, my voice steady. "You've shown me that love can be fickle and easily tossed aside. You hurt me deeply, and I'm not sure I can find it in me to forgive you." Tears filled her eyes, and she looked down as if she were trying to will the reality of her actions away. "I know I hurt you, but I promise I'll change. I'll go to therapy, I'll do whatever it takes. Just please don't give up on us." I felt a wave of sadness wash over me as I considered her words. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to hope that we could fix this. But another part of me knew that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to restore. "I need time," I finally said, my voice softening. "I'm not ready to make any decisions. I need to think about what I want for my future." "Just tell me when you're ready," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As she left, I felt a mix of emotions swirling within me: anger, sadness, and a lingering love that refused to die. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew I had to put myself first. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to find clarity, to uncover what I truly wanted. I would take my time, process my feelings, and slowly begin to put the pieces of my life back together. It was time to reclaim my narrative, whether it included Jessica or not. In the weeks that followed my confrontation with Jessica, I found myself in a constant state of internal conflict. The emotional turmoil felt like a storm brewing inside me, and while I tried to keep my head above water, I often felt overwhelmed by waves of anger, sadness, and confusion. I was living in a limbo, caught between the past and what might lie ahead. I spent time with friends trying to distract myself from the pain. They were supportive, constantly checking in on me and encouraging me to think about my happiness. But every time the topic of relationships came up, I couldn't help but think of Jessica. I remembered the good moments, the laughter, the joy, the dreams we had shared. Yet those memories felt marred by the betrayal. I was stuck in a cycle of nostalgia intertwined with heartbreak. During this time, I also took the opportunity to focus on myself. I started therapy, something I'd been meaning to do for years but always put off. It felt like a necessary step, a way to help me process not just what had happened with Jessica, but also the underlying issues in my life that I had ignored. My therapist encouraged me to explore my feelings and the expectations I had for myself and my relationships. It was enlightening but also painful as I confronted the reality of my own insecurities and fears. One evening, while I was out with a friend, I received a message from Jessica. "Can we talk?" It read. The simple request sent my heart racing. I hesitated, unsure if I was ready for another conversation. But I knew I had to face this eventually, so I texted back, agreeing to meet her at the coffee shop where we had shared so many memories. When I arrived, I spotted Jessica sitting at a corner table, her face somber and drawn. She looked up as I approached, and for a moment it felt like we were back in a different time, before everything had fallen apart. But the reality quickly crashed down on me as I sat down across from her. "Thanks for coming," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't have a choice," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started, wringing her hands nervously. "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I need to take responsibility for my actions. I've started therapy too. I want to understand why I made those choices." I raised an eyebrow, unsure of what to make of her words. "That's good, I guess. But understanding isn't enough, is it? The damage is done." "I know, I need you to know that I'm committed to making this right," she said, her eyes pleading. "I realized how much I took for granted. I want to be a better partner, a better person. I don't want to lose you." "Do you really mean that?" I challenged gently, my heart aching at the thought of being hurt again. "Or is this just about not wanting to be alone?" "It's not just about being alone," she insisted. "I didn't understand what I had until it was gone. I've realized how much I love you, how much I need you in my life. I can't imagine my future without you." Her sincerity pierced my defenses, and I felt a flicker of hope, but doubt lingered like an unwanted guest, reminding me that words were just words. "It's going to take more than just words to rebuild trust, Jessica. I need to see that you're committed to changing. It can't just be a phase or a reaction to losing me." "I understand," she replied, tears pooling in her eyes. "I'm willing to do the work. I want to show you that I can be the wife you deserve." "Then what does that mean for us moving forward?" I asked, wanting to know what she envisioned for our future. "It means being transparent. I'll share everything, my phone, my whereabouts, my feelings. I want to rebuild that trust together," she said, her voice firming up. "I'll prove to you that I can be better." I took a deep breath, weighing her words carefully. Could I really believe that she would change? The prospect of reconciliation felt daunting, and my heart raced at the idea of letting her back into my life fully. Yet a part of me felt a yearning for what we had, for the love that had once filled our home. "I can't promise anything," I said slowly, my heart heavy. "But I'm willing to consider it. I need to see actions, not just hear promises. Trust has to be rebuilt brick by brick, and I'm not ready to jump back into everything just yet." "I'll take that," she said, relief flooding her voice. "I know it'll take time, and I'm willing to be patient. I just don't want to lose you again." We parted ways that evening with a mix of uncertainty and hope. I felt lighter, but I also recognized the gravity of the situation. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but perhaps we could navigate them together. It was a fragile step forward, but at least it was a step. Over the next few weeks, we began to rebuild our relationship, albeit slowly. Jessica kept her word about being transparent. She shared her phone with me, began to check in more frequently, and made an effort to involve me in her life. I could see her trying, and while it wasn't easy, I started to soften. Yet, as I watched her change, I couldn't shake the nagging fear that this was all temporary. In the back of my mind, I felt the impending dread that our reconciliation could easily collapse under the weight of doubt. My therapy sessions helped me process these feelings, and I learned to communicate my fears openly with Jessica without pushing her away. But still, there was a lingering question. Could I truly forgive her? Or would her betrayal always loom over our relationship like a dark cloud, waiting to rain on our newfound hope? As time went on, I began to realize that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing to move forward, recognizing the pain but not allowing it to dictate my future. I was ready to face the challenges of rebuilding our lives together, but it was also clear that I had to prioritize my own healing. I would take it one day at a time, navigating the complexities of love, trust, and recovery. Whatever happened next would be our journey together, a path filled with uncertainty, but also with the potential for a deeper connection than we'd ever known. It was a chance to redefine our relationship, to create a new foundation built on honesty and mutual respect. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. The following months were a testament to resilience and growth, both for Jessica and me. We found ourselves in a delicate dance of healing and rediscovery, navigating the complexities of a relationship that had been deeply scarred. But it also felt like we were building something new, laying down the foundational bricks of a partnership that could withstand the storms of betrayal and emerge stronger. As I continued my therapy, I learned to focus on the present instead of dwelling in the past. It was challenging, but acknowledging my feelings of hurt and betrayal allowed me to process them without letting them consume me. Jessica was open and transparent, and with each passing week, I found myself gradually easing into a new normal with her. We had almost daily conversations about our feelings, addressing any concerns before they could fester. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I noticed a weariness in Jessica's eyes. She looked at me with a mix of gratitude and uncertainty, as if she was still trying to prove herself worthy of my trust. "Do you think we're making progress?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a moment to consider my response. "I think we are," I replied slowly, "but it's a process. Progress doesn't mean we're healed, it means we're working on it, and that's enough for now." "I want to keep working on it," she said, reaching out to take my hand. "I don't want to lose what we're building. I'm grateful for your patience, even when it's hard." "It's hard for both of us," I agreed. "But that doesn't mean it's not worth it. I'm trying to be better too. I want to be open with you about everything." As we continued to communicate, we found ways to reconnect on a deeper level. We started going on regular date nights, something we hadn't done in a long time. We revisited our favorite places and even tried new activities together. Each laugh shared, each moment of unguarded joy felt like a small victory. However, there were moments when the shadows of the past would creep back in. I'd catch myself feeling anxious when Jessica was late coming home, or if her phone rang and she didn't answer quickly enough. I learned to voice these feelings instead of letting them fester. "I'm feeling a bit anxious today," I would say, and she would reassure me, showing me her commitment to transparency. One day, as we sat on our patio after dinner, watching the sunset, I realized how far we had come. "You know," I began, glancing at her, "I never thought I could feel this way again after everything that happened." Jessica turned to me, a soft smile playing on her lips. "Neither did I honestly wasn't sure if we would ever get to this point. Sometimes I think back to when I discovered your affair. It was like stepping into a nightmare." I admitted, the memory still fresh in my mind. "But I also see that it pushed us to confront our issues head-on. Maybe it forced us to grow in ways we wouldn't have otherwise." "That's how I feel too," she replied. "I realized how much I had taken for granted, and I'm working hard to show you how much you mean to me. I don't ever want to go back to that place where I made those choices." As the days turned into weeks, I found my trust in her returning, albeit slowly. There were no guarantees, and I was aware that a part of my heart still held reservations. Yet, I learned to embrace the uncertainty, focusing instead on the present and the love that began to blossom between us once more. Eventually, I decided it was time to take a leap of faith. I wanted to renew our commitment to each other in a meaningful way. So I planned a weekend getaway to a cabin in the woods, where we could disconnect from the world and reconnect with each other. I thought it would be the perfect setting for us to reflect on our journey and envision our future. As we settled into the cabin, surrounded by nature, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We hiked, cooked together, and spent hours talking by the fireplace. One evening under the stars, I turned to Jessica, my heart racing. "I want us to move forward, Jess, to build a new future together." Her eyes sparkled with hope. "What do you mean?" "I want to recommit to you, to us. I want to start fresh with trust, honesty, and love as the foundation, but I need to know you're committed to that too." Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "I am. I promise I'll do everything I can to make this work. I love you, and I want to choose you every single day." I took her hand, feeling the warmth of her touch and the sincerity in her words. At that moment, I felt a wave of hope wash over me, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild our relationship on stronger ground. After that weekend, we continued the work of rebuilding our marriage. It wasn't always easy. There were ups and downs, moments of doubt and moments of joy. But we faced each challenge together, continually choosing each other despite the obstacles. In the end, I learned that love is not just about the perfect moments. It's also about weathering the storms together. We emerged from the darkness, not unscathed, but stronger and more united. I found solace in knowing that while our journey was far from ordinary, it had brought us closer. I had learned the power of forgiveness, the importance of vulnerability, and the necessity of communication in a relationship. And most importantly, I learned that rebuilding trust takes time and effort, but it can lead to a deeper and more meaningful love than ever before. As I look back on everything that transpired, I realize that while I would never want to go through it again, I am grateful for the lessons it taught me. Our love story, though tumultuous, is uniquely ours, and it continues to unfold with each passing day, rich with possibility and hope for the future.